Well, a very good morning to you from Trucking TV, and here's our opening page. Really, it's a photograph that I found, or was sent, I think, on the internet a few days ago, and we put the video relating to this up online on Thursday, and that's kind of a fairly the photograph. Let's be honest and say the photograph doesn't really look like anything, does it? But in fact, that shows two guys attacking a lorry driver, or trying to attack a lorry driver who's sitting in his cab. They've obviously just had some kind of bump with their BMW, so I guess that's just one of those things that happens, isn't it? Perhaps. And they've decided that rather than do anything like an insurance claim or anything, they're going to try and drag the driver out of his cab and beat the hell out of him. I don't know what the world's coming to, do you? We've got a situation in which drivers are being attacked, or trying to be attacked, and when we put this up we heard another story. Let's just go back and say good morning to you again properly, because I'm Chris, as you know, this is Trucking TV, and every Saturday morning essentially we want to have a chat and kind of set the world to rights in our heads, and maybe bring this kind of situation to the attention of other people who live in the same world as us and who try to actually make sense of what happens. And we're trying to do that in this instance as well, I guess you'd say. Okay. So, what are we looking at today? We're looking at drivers coming under attack from essentially people who behave like thugs. In the last photograph that I showed you at the start of this clip, what happened, I think, was that the truck driver was driving down the road, and I imagine that the BMW kind of cut in front of him, and they had a small bump. Now, under normal circumstances with normal people, that situation would have ended up with an insurance claim, swap your details and stuff like that. Where do you go from there? I don't know, but in fact what happened in this instance is that the two guys kind of cut in further in front of the truck, got out of the vehicle and started to try and get the driver out of his cab so they could beat the shit out of him. Not on, guys. And it continued, I think, for some minutes. The video was on Trucking TV, we had it on here, and I don't know if you saw it, but if you didn't, it's still on the page, on the Facebook page. So they tried to drag him out of the cab, they tried to assault the vehicle and open the doors, and failed. And eventually they gave up and drove away. The attack must have gone on for 3 or 4 minutes. Unsuccessfully, thank goodness. They did some damage to the vehicle, but then they drove off. And as they drove off, we noticed that they actually had put a cloth or something over the rear number plate. So there you go, no one can recognise them from this video. I don't know whether anyone took any pictures of the front of the vehicle and got the number plate, but it would seem to me that these guys are just thugs. It would seem to me that they probably aren't even insured. The car may be stolen, who knows? But it's quite a worrying one, isn't it? And you don't know where the whole thing comes from and goes to, really. I think the police are dealing with it, but in reality, who knows whether they're actually going to get anywhere either. What we had is a circumstance in which we showed a film of a lorry driver being attacked by a pair of thugs who he'd had a small bump with, and they were going to beat the shit out of him. Don't know whether it happened, don't know what went on from there. I think the car drove away, the car drove away in the end, and that was the end of that story from our point of view. What happened as far as the rest is concerned, we don't know. The police got involved, but that's all we can say. What we had subsequently after that was some emails from a lady truck driver who gave us what I would call a similar and equally scary and horrendous, really, episode. The lady's name was Nikki. I won't identify her any further. She was driving along the A419 towards Swindon. The van in front of her was going slow, so she started to overtake. And that's when she saw him on his phone, and the phone was on the steering wheel. So she bipped her horn to let him know that she'd seen him. That's all. And he got really angry and upset. And what happened from there on in, he put his foot down and drove alongside her, preventing her from pulling back in. So there you go. About a mile later, he pulled forward and then he brake tested her, which is a bloody stupid thing to do, and then wanted to fight her on the curb. She declined. She said, "I'm female and I declined." She was going to Royal Mail at Swindon, so she drove to the gatehouse and got out. There was a van driver coming in, a Royal Mail van driver coming in beside, and she asked him to help her as a van had pulled up behind her and the guy had got out holding a baseball bat. The Royal Mail driver did his window up and drove off, leaving Nikki there with the mad bloke. So did 3 other Royal Mail drivers. She pressed the entry button constantly to be let in, and she eventually got away from him and broke down. The police were called, but he'd gone, and she was then trying to find out if there was CCTV at the gatehouse. She said her dash cam wasn't working properly, so she didn't have any dash cam footage to prove any part of the incident, nor to give the police the registration number. She contacted the police, and the police contacted her, I think, yesterday to say that Royal Mail Swindon had a power failure, which just happened to be on that day. Well, to be honest with you, I'm gobsmacked with that story. I think, to be honest with you, I can't believe the state of some people's heads. If that's an appropriate reaction to a small amount of problem on the road, I guess the guy was upset that he'd been discovered using his phone driving along the road. Does that justify you getting out a baseball bat and threatening someone's life? I don't really think so. But drivers, I think, are putting up with this all the time. Let's just have a look at what some people say. Yeah, Chris Rutter says drivers are always in the wrong. It's just being in people's way and it's just a joke. Our jobs would be enjoyable, but it's becoming rubbish. I think that's probably true, Chris. In many ways, drivers don't look at truck drivers in the same way as they're looked at on the continent. On the continent, drivers seem to get a reasonable amount of respect, and that doesn't seem to happen here. So it's a bit scary and a bit worrying. Where do we go from here? I don't know. I guess the issue that really this incident comes down to is the fact, in terms of getting some kind of a result out of it, the problem comes down to Nikki's firm not supplying a dash cam that actually works. She had a dash cam, but it wasn't working. So that can be an issue for her, and that's certainly an issue in this instance, because that guy, the guy with the baseball bat, needs stopping. Nikki couldn't do anything else safely. She couldn't get her phone out and take a photograph of him herself, because it would be the similar issue, wouldn't it? Really should be in the wrong then. So in reality, it's a worrying case, and I'd like to know if other people have had similar instances, because I think this is worth publicising as well. It's bad news for the UK driving community in general, regardless whether the driving community is driving trucks or any damn thing else, because people who behave like this should not be on the road, shouldn't be driving vans, earning their living off the road, and shouldn't be threatening other people. It's scary and it's quite worrying. We all, I think, have driven along and had the odd gesture from people. It happens. But in reality, a baseball bat, that guy should be put away. Okay. Before I finish this topic, let me just say that also I hope the police catch those 2 half-wits in the centre of London who with the BMW. People like that really shouldn't be driving on the UK roads. Okay, I'm going to talk about a couple of other things today as well, which you may have a thought and an input about. I don't know whether you live in East Anglia. If you do live in East Anglia, you may have seen some TV reports about the state of the port of Felixstowe. The mighty Felixstowe has instituted last weekend a new software system called NGen, sorry, it's just NGEN, and NGen is supposed to be the last word in computer software for managing ports. Over the last week, while I've been having a little bit of a break, NGen has mucked up a lot of people's lives. A lot of lorry drivers are reporting that they had essentially something like 10 or maybe 12 or maybe even longer hours wait to get tipped and loaded at the port of Felixstowe because the software system was messing them up. It seems to have more or less righted itself now, or been put right now, because the current comments we're getting from drivers who use the port of Felixstowe extensively is that they seem not to have so many waits. But on Monday morning when we open the newsroom, we're going to be looking for two things about 7 or 7:30 a.m. One will be, got to have an itch when you need one, reports from the port of Felixstowe. If drivers are delayed a long time, let us know, for goodness sake, and we'll just do a continuous report on it. And the other thing we want to do on Monday morning every day, we're going to look and see if we can find, I don't think we're going to have to look far, we're going to have to look and see if we can find crime affecting trucks across the whole week, because we know, I think most drivers know, that every day is a day in which some driver, some vehicle gets broken into, something gets stolen. What can you say from there? So we're going to try and report it. We'll be reporting it not only online, but we'll be sending our comments also to the police in the area, and also to the Department for Transport, and also to the Labour Party, who have expressed an interest. So we'll be sending that kind of stuff around the circuit. So if you know of, if you are involved, if you see any kind of criminality, i.e. theft from trucks, attempted theft from trucks, that's also including things like slash curtains, etc. If you see any of that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday or Friday mornings, let us know on Trucking TV's Facebook. Really like to hear from you on that. Okay, what else do I want to mention? Oh my goodness, I've started a noisy computer by accident. We will be looking also at our Patreon page during the coming week, because as you know, we're trying something called Patreon, which gives us the opportunity, or gives you the opportunity, if you wish, to make a small subscription to Trucking TV. It costs you a total of around £2.50 a month, and if we had a few dozen people subscribing to that out of the 6,000 or 7,000 followers we have on Facebook, then we'd be able to do a lot more and make a lot more content. One of the things that we've got an ambition to do is to do some evening chat shows, really phone-ins, and those we could start to do if we had some more subscribers on Patreon. If you'd like to help us by subscribing £2.50 or whatever it is every month, you can find our subscription page at www.patreon.com/truckingtv. Give that a look. Okay, we'll be back with more from Trucking TV's peculiar little word of truckery. I don't know, can I say that? Peculiar little word of truckery, which will be coming up on Wednesday. We'll have some more content for you on Wednesday, and of course we'll have more stuff for you, video and news throughout the week. My name is Chris Gosling, this is Trucking TV, and I will see you when I see you. Until then, let us know what's happening in your world. See you soon.